Why did Prophet Muhammad marry Aisha? How old was Aisha when she married the Prophet? How do Muslims respond to criticisms or misconceptions about this marriage? Did Aisha's marriage have any religious or political significance? What was Aisha's role in the Prophet's life and early Islamic story? There are the most searched questions about the Prophet Muhammad marriage to Aisha. May Allah be pleased with her. They are the same question that the enemies of Islam use to target four types of people. 1. Muslims with weak faith. They try to weaken their faith even more. 2. Ordinary Muslims who have strong faith but no answers. These Muslims have not searched for answers because they believe that everything the Prophet did is right and beyond dispute. The aim is to create doubts in their hearts and distort their view of Islam. 3. Simple Muslims by nature. These people are not literate and have never heard the details of this marriage. They know only that the Prophet married Aisha, and when these questions arise in a deceitful way, doubts may start to creep into their minds. 4. Non-Muslims. They raise these questions to these non-Muslims and answer them in their own way to make him hate Islam and prevent them from ever embarrassing it. As a simple person who searched for the correct answer and found them, I feel it's my duty to share these answers with you. First, to give logical and truthful answers to non-Muslims so they know the truth and nothing but the truth. Second, so the Muslims who do not know the answers can defend our beloved Prophet, who is free from faults, against anyone who dares to distort the fact and spread lies. I won't make the introduction too long, so let's go straight to the topic of this episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you are watching this channel for the first time, let me introduce myself. My name is Khalil, and through this channel I work on correcting misconceptions about Islam and share Islamic stories that will benefit you in your life, inshallah. Aisha was the third wife of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the daughter of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with him. The Prophet married her by Allah's command. Aisha herself said that the Prophet told her, I saw you in a dream for 3 nights. The angel come to me with you wrapped in a silk cloth and said, this is your wife. I uncovered your face and it was you. I said, if this is from Allah, he'll make it happen. As we all know, the dreams and visions of the prophets are revelations from Allah, and they come true, not just ordinary dreams. Since Aisha was young, intelligent, and quick to learn and memorize, the Prophet preferred to marry her in this age so she could better transmit his teachings and household matters, because it's well known that knowledge acquired in youth stay firm and lasting. Aisha was the only virgin among the Prophet's wives. All his other wives were either divorced or widowed. After the death of his first wife Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, at the age of 50, the Prophet was deeply saddened. Her death came shortly after the death of his uncle Abu Talib, who had also been a great supporter to the Prophet. This year became known as the Year of Sorrow because of the immense grief the Prophet experienced. After this, the Prophet married Sauda, the daughter of Zam'a, as we mentioned in the previous episode, and he engaged Aisha when she was 6 years old, but didn't marry or consummate the marriage until she was 9. There are many narrations about Aisha's age at engagement. Some say she was 6 and few say she was 7. Scholars suggest that she was probably a little over 6, or perhaps 6 and a half. This explains why she sometimes said 6 and at other times said 7. However, the marriage was only consummated when she was 9. Here is where the criticisms and accusations start from those who oppose Islam. They say things like, the Prophet Muhammad raped young girls. The Prophet Muhammad encouraged child marriage. The Prophet Muhammad was obsessed with marrying children. The Prophet Muhammad was mentally ill and used his religion to satisfy his desires. How can a 50-year-old man marry a 9-year-old girl. The accusations go on and on, but the only way to stop them is by answering with the absolute truth and correct information. These answers must be consistent with logic, reasons, the law, customs, and norms that existed in the society at that time and across generations. Here are the detailed answers we will discuss in this episode. First, Islamic law in marriage. The Quran defines the legal age of marriage as the age of puberty for both men and women. Once a woman reaches puberty, she can marry without restrictions, and the same applies to men. This is exactly what the Prophet did. He married Aisha only after she reached puberty and not before that. 2. Aisha's engagement before the Prophet. Did you know that Aisha was already engaged to Jubair son of Mut'am before the Prophet's proposal? When Abu Bakr as-Siddiq learned that the Prophet wanted to marry Aisha, he asked Mut'am son of Adi if they still intended for his son to marry her, but Mut'am rejected and said no, and Abu Bakr joyful gave Aisha in marriage to the Prophet. This shows that engagements at a young age were not uncommon in that society. The Prophet wasn't the first to propose marriage to a young girl, nor the last. Even the pagans of Mecca, who were always looking for a reason to criticize the Prophet, never raised this as an issue because it was normal in their society at that time. 3. Medical perspective on early marriage. Modern medical science states that the age of puberty for girls ranges from 10 to 14 years, and if a girl reaches puberty at 9, there are no medical issues with her getting married. Puberty varies by region and climate. In places near the equator, girls tend to reach puberty earlier than in colder regions. A girl can marry once she reaches puberty without any harm to her health. Thus, the marriage of the Prophet Muhammad to Aisha was medically sound at that time and caused her no harm. 4. Differences in laws from one country to another. Did you know, my dear friends, that the legal age of marriage for girls in India is 18 years? In the United States, there are states where the legal age of marriage is 14 years, but only with parental consent. In other states, the minimum age is 15, 16, 17 or even 18 years, depending on local regulation. In the United Kingdom, the legal marriage age for female is 16 years. In Saudi Arabia, it's 18 years, while in Mexico, it varies between 14 and 16 years depending on the state. In Brazil, the legal age of marriage is 21 years. Each country has different laws and systems in place. But can you confidently say that the laws of one country are absolutely right, while the laws of other countries are completely wrong? No, my dear friend, you can't make such a judgment. Each nation understands its customs, traditions, and people better, and determines what is appropriate for them based on its own culture and societal needs. 5. Mutual consent. If the groom, the bride, and their families are in agreement, so who are we to interfere in their personal matters? Those who fabricate such lies and accusations often claim to champion freedom of choice and personal autonomy. So why then do they try to interfere with other choices regarding whom they marry and impose their laws on them? Isn't that a form of aberration and restriction of freedom? Moreover, Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, proudly cherished her marriage to the Prophet. She often posted that she was the only wife he married as a virgin, while all of his other wives were either divorced or widowed. If Aisha was happy and proud of her marriage, who are you to interfere in her private life and impose your opinions and laws on her? Let me give you an example. If I were to tell someone, your wife is not beautiful, why did you marry her? Knowing that beauty is subjective and varies from person to person, the response would be simple. What does that have to do with you? Who are you to interfere in my personal affairs and decide whom I should marry or divorce? Perhaps in my eyes she is the most beautiful woman in the world. If you don't prefer marrying certain women, whether because of their age, marital status, or other personal reasons. That's your choice and no one can force you otherwise. Similarly, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, married Khadija at a young age, a practice that was socially accepted at the time. But he never forced you to marry the way he did, nor did he impose any restrictive marriage laws upon you. In fact, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, married women from a different age and circumstances. For example, he married Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, who was 15 years older than him. But again, he didn't impose that you must marry an old woman, a divorce or a widow. In summary, no one has the right to impose their opinions and laws on two consenting individuals who choose to marry, as long as their marriage does not violate religion principles, is not harmful from a medical standpoint, is legal according to the laws of their country or city, with the consent of their families. With that, we have addressed the first three questions in this episode, which are: why did the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, marry Aisha? How old was Aisha when she married the Prophet? How should Muslims respond to criticisms or misconceptions about this marriage? Now let's move on to the final two questions. Did the marriage with Aisha have any religious or political significance? What was Aisha's role in the life of the Prophet and in early Islamic history? As we mentioned earlier, the Prophet married Aisha because of her intelligence, quick memory, and ability to preserve his teachings related to household matters. This allowed her to pass on the Prophet's tradition to the companion and future generations, including ours. Indeed, Aisha became one of our greatest teachers, sharing invaluable guidance on resolving family problems, maintaining healthy relationships between spouses, and raising children, all based on the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Whenever the companions faced challenges in their family lives or had questions regarding murder or domestic affairs after the Prophet passing, they would consult Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. She would provide them with answers based on the Prophet's teachings. She narrated 2,210 hadiths from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Aisha was not only a teacher for us, but she was also a source of comfort for the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. She was the beloved wife to whom he would turn during the moments of exhaustion, sadness, or hardship. She was the most beloved of his wives. It is narrated that Amr ibn al-As once asked the Prophet, "Who is the most beloved person to you?" The Prophet replied, "Aisha." Amr then asked, "And among men?" The Prophet said, "Her father, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with him." Amr asked further, "And then who?" The Prophet replied, "Umar ibn al-Khattab," and he continued naming others. Aisha's room was known as the Chamber of Revelation because many revelations descended upon the Prophet while he was in her room, which was adjacent to the mosque. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, once said, "Many men have attained perfection, but among women only Mary, the daughter of Imran, and Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, have attained perfection, and the superiority of Aisha over other women is like the superiority of sarid over other meals." Sarid mean a dish of bread and meat. This hadith highlight that while many men have reached the pinnacles of righteousness and virtue, such as prophets, saints, and martyrs, only two women from history were explicitly mentioned as having attained perfection. One, Mary or Maryam, for her purity and devotion to worship. Two, Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, for her unwavering faith, despite living with one of the most tyrannical rulers. As for Aisha, the Prophet comparison of her to Sarid, a beloved and satisfying dish, emphasizes her excellence and unique qualities. Aisha possessed sharp intellect, eloquence, sound judgment, and the ability to endear herself to the Prophet. She transmitted more knowledge from the Prophet than any other woman, and even more than many men. In conclusion, I hope I have answered all your questions and successfully refuted the false accusation that often made against the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode, where we will explore another story from the lives of the Prophet's wives. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with new content. And may Allah, peace and blessing be upon you.